Hi everyone, it's Mari here for Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be making a fun little project for you today using this beautiful Gingham Galore Spring paper pad from Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be doing a little bit of paper weaving for you today, and I'm going to start off with some strips of this gorgeous color palette from that Gingham Galore paper pad. I have a piece of white cardstock cut into a strip. It's probably about 4 inches by 2 inches, something like that. And I'm just going to use that to help me do my weaving. I'm going to take those papers that I showed you that are kind of rainbow selection, and I'm going to cut those into 1/4 inch strips. So I'm actually cutting 3 strips of each of the colors of the rainbow colors I chose. And you can just see those strips are all ready to go. Now I'm taking some dot runner. This is Gina K, and I'm just putting a little bit of that in the center of my paper here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm also going to add a little bit of that dot runner down a little bit lower and a little bit on the sides. You can see all of the different areas where I've added that adhesive. I'm just showing you here so you can see that. Just a little bit of adhesive to allow you to get your strips of paper into place so that you can do the weaving. Now I'm putting those into rainbow order, as I mentioned, onto the cardstock strip. And I'm leaving a little bit of gap between the papers at this point, but you'll see me tighten up that gap later once I get all of my papers into the little weave. So here you can just see I'm going to go ahead and continue that rainbow order here until I have all of the different colors onto that white cardstock. And once those are in place, I can start to weave in the opposite direction. So this is just an under, over, under, over, under, over pattern. So whatever you start off with, if you start off going under, then you go over the next strip and under the next strip and so on and so forth, just to weave the paper strip in between the horizontal strips. So the vertical strips are going to be over, under, over, under, over, under the horizontal strips. And you can just see how I'm just weaving that strip in and amongst those rainbow strips. Now I'm going to go with my next rainbow color. So this one's blue. I'm actually doing reverse rainbow order at this point, going from right to left, but I will switch it up and go left to right here pretty quick. But you can just see that I have to pull up some of the strips to weave this strip in, and that's perfectly fine. It's the repositionable adhesive is very forgiving, and it allows me to move those papers around. Now you will just have to make sure that every one of these vertical strips that you add is opposite the last vertical strip. So this strip happens, if it happens to be over, under, over, under, over, under, it's got to be the opposite of the one that I did before it. So start in the opposite spot. So if the first strip is under first, the next strip has to be over first, and just so that they're woven in that way. So it's just really, really simple to do. If you've never done any weaving before, this is all there is to it. It's really simple. Paper weaving is really fun in lots of different paper crafts. Maybe you've done this in a scrapbooking layout before. It is a really cool look, and it's a fun way to add a focal point to any type of project, whether it's card making, scrapbooking, if you're doing some sort of DIY project. It's just, I think it's a really fun technique, and it's easy to do. So it's a little bit finicky. You'll see me just kind of like playing around, moving things, using my tweezers sometimes to move the paper. Now this kind of looks like a hot mess right now because everything is crooked, but all you have to do now at this point is just move the horizontal strips kind of tighter together and straighten them up, and then just straighten the ones that are vertical. And once you get them all straightened up and into the right spot, you have just this really nice mat of woven papers. And I love these really soft pastel colors. I think they're so pretty. Just lovely for a spring project for sure. You can just see how now I'm just kind of pressing the papers also into that adhesive that I have on the white paper. And once I'm satisfied with how things are looking and if they're straight or not, I'm just going to kind of move things into the right spot. And I'll just push them down again, like I said, into that adhesive when I'm happy with them. Then what I'll do is, and you'll see me do this right away, is I'll just take a little bit more adhesive, add that in wherever I feel like I need it underneath the papers just to keep them secured. And now what I'm going to do is take my scissors and I'm going to cut off the excess white paper. So I only want a little strip of white paper kind of behind the really center area of my weave. And so I'm going to cut a lot of this white cardstock off, and it'll just leave a little patch of white in behind to allow me to add this onto my card base. I'm also going to trim off, I'll give all of these little strips a little bit of a haircut with my Cutter Bee scissors here, and I'll just trim them off, but I want to trim them at a variety of different lengths. I want this to look interesting. Obviously, I don't want it to look just like a complete square or something. I want the papers to have different lengths. And I do want this to be in more of a elongated piece in the end. So I'm going to make sure that my vertical strips are longer than my horizontal strips. I'm going to just trim off that white cardstock a little bit more. So these ones on this end are going to end up being a little bit longer. And you'll see that in the finished strip here, or the finished piece when I'm all done. And just going to finish that up. I don't think I show you trimming up all of those pieces just because it's just the same thing over and over. So this is my sample one that I did beforehand. It's basically exactly the same, but you'll see that one end of the papers are longer so that it's more of a vertical looking piece and will fit nicely onto my A2 size card base. So there it is. It's all finished now. I have everything ready to go. And what I have done in the meantime is I have gotten a card front ready by using the Spring Leaves cover plate. This is a gorgeous cover plate. I love it. And I also used my A2 scallop frame dies to do that really nice scallop finish on this piece so that you can see there, it just finishes that card front off nicely. And I'm going to add that to an A2 size top folding card base here to create the rest of my card. So I'm also going to be using the Whimsical Spring Flowers die set. I love this die set so much. It creates just these most adorable little floral die cut pieces that you can use to embellish your different projects. Now I'm going to put a little bit of foam adhesive on the back of my card front. That's that scallop edge piece that I used my cover plate on. And I'm going to take the backer off of the foam adhesive and add a little bit of Honeybee liquid adhesive onto that as well. That's just going to allow me to wiggle this around on my card base a little bit so that that foam adhesive doesn't grab the card base right away. It will allow me to get this into position so that it's nice and straight. So I'm just going to add that onto my top folding A2 size card base here. Once I'm happy with how that's positioned, I'll just press down on that and make sure it's nice and adhered. I did die cut out all of those little florals from the Whimsical Spring Flowers for embellishing my woven piece here. But all I have to do to add this woven piece to my card front is just add adhesive to that white piece of cardstock on the backer. And I'm just going to add that onto my card front like so. Now I wanted to go ahead and just add a cluster of 5 different florals from those die cuts, and I'm adding quite a few of them with foam adhesive. You'll see a little bit of dimension for sure. Now some of these flowers have little center die cut pieces as well, which is super adorable. Makes these really nice and dimensional and just makes them look really interesting. And I am going to add those little centers with a little bit of liquid adhesive, and you'll see me in a little bit here also adding some gems to the centers of the flowers. At this point I'm just trying to sort out which center goes with which flower and just getting those into the right position here. And just gonna painstakingly add these in with that liquid adhesive. I do really love using my Honeybee reverse tweezers for this process. Just makes it super easy to get those little intricate pieces into the right spot. And I just wanted to do these in white. I thought that just looked really nice and airy. I like the look of that. I think it's a really nice spring look with the pastel colors. And I'm going to finish off the centers of each one of these sweet little flowers with a gem, and you'll see me doing that here pretty quickly. I'm just going to add a little bit of foam adhesive to this floral piece as well, and just adding some dimension to some of the flowers to create that added dimension to the front of the project. You will notice, or you probably noticed, I just added that basket weave or the woven piece there flat to the card front. I didn't add any foam adhesive to the woven piece just because the card front already has foam adhesive on it, and now I'm adding more foam adhesive with these florals. So just one little flower there. I do a little bit later add a 5th flower up to the top area. And right now you'll just see me adding the gems in. I love these gem stickers. These are the Modern Spring gems. And I'm also going to add some of the Hugs and Kisses gems as well. And just adding a little bit of those rainbow color bling to the different centers. Now, this is a gorgeous sentiment set. This is the Small Card Big Hugs sentiment set, which also has a coordinating hot foil plate as well. It also has a coordinating die set so that you can die cut these out. Now, I wanted the Thinking of You sentiment in black, but I'm going to show you one of the sentiments that's also foil just so that you can see what the foiling looks like. I love that. I think those foil plates are genius, and I love that Honeybee has a coordinating die set for all of these so that you can die cut the sentiments out. Now these black sentiments, I love that the black just pops off of this really soft card, and I've cut the 2 sentiment strips then. As you can see here, I'm going to add a little bit of foam to the backs. So I did use the coordinating dies, obviously, to cut out these sentiments, and you can just see how perfect they are when you use those coordinating dies. It does just make it so simple to add a sentiment strip to a project when you have the dies. So I'm using my Honeybee tweezers again. Here you can just see to add these sentiments onto my project. I wanted the thinking just quite fairly centered with my little florals, and then the of you obviously just below that. I think I do end up moving that a little bit, the of you a little bit over, but you'll see that in a second. Now this is where I wanted to add another flower to the top area so that I do have an odd number of florals, and I will add a gem to that as well. So I'm just kind of trying to decide where I want that so that it looks okay. You can just see I'm moving the of you over a little bit, and that's basically going to finish off my card. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you loved that paper weaving technique. I think it's fun. I really love how this card turned out. I think it's super pretty. I did link up to all of the products that I've used from the Honeybee shop in the description box below, so you can go ahead and click those links to shop for any of these different supplies that I've used. Thank you so much, friends, for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.